Hey, Edgar community. Today we have a fun topic about how you re-engage your followers. Sometimes we set goals for ourselves and we fall off of those plans. Hey now, we're only human, right? So oftentimes when this happens though, we think there's no redemption. There's no way we can jump back onto our social feeds and pick up again. But truly there is. And oftentimes you'll find that your followers are ready and waiting and excited to consume your content again. So let's talk today about if you've fallen off of your social media routine, if you feel like you haven't been showing up as strongly as you could or engaging your followers in the way that you know you can, we're going to give some actionable tactics today to get you back on course. First, most often it takes awareness of why this happened, and often it comes just down to overwhelm. You are a solopreneur, a small business owner, a marketer without a lot of resources out there, and you're thinking, holy cow, I can't do this all, so you put social media on the back burner. Pro tip, if you get a social media scheduler like MeetEdgar, it makes things way easier to stay consistent. But you can do some of the concepts that we have within our MeetEdgar software on your own as well if you feel like you just want to get your toes wet again. And the first thing is something that our software is built on, and that's categorizing your social media status updates. This takes the overwhelm out of social media and it takes the guesswork out of it so much so you feel confident that you're just rotating through a set of categories that you've tested and that you know are going to resonate for your followers. So when setting up these categories, you really want to remember that a little bit of value goes a long way on social media. And what I mean by this is ask your friends and family what they find really valuable about you. So this could be things like what you teach them. This could be things totally outside of the wheelhouse of what you sell, either in your service or in your business. These things that you add value to the world in the real world are things that you should be adding value to your followers as well. This is how they get to know you. This is how they really get to see your brand as someone who has people behind it and they like to talk back to you and engage with you. So really get to know yourself and become aware of what things you're great at helping people with and what things you could actually help your followers with. This is really just about community building. Other things to consider when creating your categories to re-engage your followers is coming up with brand building stories. It is your responsibility to tell the story of your brand. And right now, more than ever, if you feel like you need to re-engage your followers, you need to be educating people on what they should know about their brand. And this isn't just like the features of your product. This is the feeling that you want people to get when they think about your brand and you're not around. This is what those brands like Nike do. When you hear Nike, you think of motivation, you think of that just do it spirit. That's because their branding is so strong that they've created this brand story that is in your head. You can do that even as a small brand in a small business, but it first takes getting really clear on the feeling you want people to have. For example, at MeetEdgar, we want people to feel inspired, we want people to feel empowered, and we want people to remember us as a really friendly, down-to-earth brand. So we try to talk a lot to people. We go above and beyond in our customer service to make sure people feel comfortable about their social media scheduling tool. So these things go into our brand story quite a bit, and we like to tell that story. So what is it about you that you might not be telling people about your brand? And don't be shy here. Oftentimes people want to know because we make our judgment on what we're going to purchase based on these values that the brands put out there. But if you're not telling anyone what your values are, or you're not telling anyone what you want their feelings to be and your brand story, it's going to be harder for them to make a decision between you and your competitor. So don't be shy about telling people who you are, your values, your brand story, and trying to give people that feeling that you want your brand to convey. And keep in mind too, you are really responsible for teaching your audience about how to talk about your brand, because word of mouth marketing right now, especially if you're trying to re-engage your followers, is one of the strongest tactics you can take. Why? Because if you get word of mouth marketing going properly, you'll know that your followers are going to be telling their friends and family about your product or service, and that builds trust faster than anything. If a trusted friend or family member tells you about a brand, you're much more likely to purchase it than if you just stumble upon it on your own. So make sure that you're giving people that story that they can easily convey to others if they want to be a part of your marketing team, basically with that word of mouth marketing strategy. And these brand stories, when you're writing them, the cool thing about these kinds of posts is they truly are evergreen. You are always going to want to have these posts go out, no matter what time of year it is, no matter if people have seen these posts before or not. That's how you really get those feelings and emotions that we talked about, like how Nike has established. You've seen a million Nike commercials, I'm sure, and each and every one of them has a brand story of inspiration in it. It's okay to repeat that, right? So tell your origin story and write these posts, and be sure to share them more than once. We believe so strongly in evergreen marketing. It's what our social media scheduling tool is truly built on. But truly, you can go ahead and get this same aspect of making sure that new followers, as well as followers who might have not been engaged with your brand for a while, get that rooting of where you've come from. That origin story, that brand feeling is really important, especially when you're re-engaging followers. And it really helps to be strategic in your communication in this way. I think sometimes when we hear the word strategy, we think that it's a kind of ugly word and it's a little slimy. But oftentimes, I think that's just because we hear the buzzword like authentic so often these days, that you need to be authentic with your marketing. That strategy sometimes seems a little slimy. But when you're strategic and purposeful, I want you to flip that on your head and remind yourself that you're actually respecting your followers quite a bit more when you have a strategy, you have these categories set up, and you've gone to think about psychologically the demographic you're speaking to your followers, as well as just what they like, what they dislike, what their values are, so you can connect with them in that way. That way, your posts are welcome in their feed. Remember, when you show up in someone's feed, it's basically like you're knocking on their front door and saying, hey, so make sure you have a strategy and a reason for being there. Pretty awkward if you knock on that front door and don't have anything to say. So posts don't always have to be directly about your product or service, especially when re-engaging your followers. Tell people a story that makes them feel like you're just a regular person. Remember, this is how we get that engagement that's so important for our reach on our social media posts. So think about the stories throughout your day. Truly, anything that goes on in your day is fair game. One of the things I like to think about is any embarrassing moment or failure that I could share with my community. So I think it often goes to the fact of like, when you slip on a banana peel, everyone like points and laughs at you, right? But if you tell the story of slipping on a banana peel, everyone laughs with you. It's that laughing at you versus laughing with you kind of dichotomy there. And that's kind of the power of telling these stories on social media. So you can get that laughter and that joint experience going. And this is truly one of the best ways to bond people together. Psychologically, that's what laughter is all about. It's to have a signal to the other person that you see them. So if you can make sure that you're telling your embarrassing stories and humanizing your brand, you'll see a lot more engagement on social media. So don't be afraid to tell those harder stories too, and those vulnerable things, because so often that's the things that other people aren't doing, and you will stand out if you're brave enough to do it yourself. And you really can do things like sharing valuable resources that perhaps aren't related to your product or service either. This is really helpful because it's the way that you're showing your followers, I care about offering you something I found, this little gem online that I found, whether it's a tool, whether it's a product that you really helped in your remote workspace. You know, think about what's going on in people's lives, what you can really help resonate with them. And share those tools, share those things so that people start to see you again as a really helpful person, and they get excited for your post to show up in their feed. Re-engaging your followers takes a lot of behind the scenes content as well. This stuff that really reminds them that you're working hard on your product or service. Remind people you are here to stay this time and that you're creating value for them. And this takes so much consistency, and you might be feeling overwhelmed again, but if you sit down and you write out things like your brand stories, your behind the scenes content, your valuable resources to share, and your embarrassing and funny stories into categories, and just rotate through them, it becomes so much easier. So sitting down, batching this content out, and making sure you have an idea of when to post it. If you want a little pro tip, check out MeetEdgar.com. You can actually do this in our software, and it'll send out those status updates for you, saving you a ton of time and overwhelm. All right, so moving on here a little bit, they really make the process, obviously, of coming up with a lot of content easier, having these categories, choosing how you're going to send them out, but it also makes the process that we love to talk about here at MeetEdgar of upcycling so much easier too. So we are really excited about making sure that you have a well-researched piece of content that can be turned into 5 to 10 status updates really easily. So this could be something as simple as sending it out to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. That way, you're amplifying your content and meeting people where they are so that their eyes can be on your content in more places. This also goes into the fact that if you have like a blog post or a video or a podcast, you can do things like get pull quotes from within the show notes of your podcast, or go ahead and quote yourself from a video on a beautiful background in Canva and post that. You see how we can make this content, make sure that it has a longer shelf life than just sharing it once. So an evergreen strategy coupled with upcycling your content gives you an endless amount of content to continue to post out to your followers. And don't be afraid about repeating yourself too often. This is some of the things that people get so scared about, but truly it's one of the things that I think people should do more often, because only 10% of your followers ever see anything you post on social. So you really want to make sure that you're getting out there and having your status updates live longer than just the one time. And when writing your posts to re-engage with people lengthwise, I always recommend keeping them shorter at the beginning. This is because you really want to make sure that people are reading through the whole thing. And if you've been gone for a while, it's likely that you're actually not going to get people reading because they're like, who's this showing up in my feed? I don't know this person. So keep your captions short at first, and then you can go ahead and play around with altering and switching up the length and lengthening it out to get that dwell time that is taken into the algorithm's account sometimes, especially on Instagram. Dwell time just being the fact that people will go on in there and dwell on your post a little bit longer. And you may not want to hear this one, but oh my gosh, if you're trying to re-engage your audience, video is your best friend. I know we get squeamish about video, but there's so many options here. You can just do a diary style for your video. So getting out there and showing people what's going on in your day-to-day life. Remember, taking people behind the scenes right now is so important so that they trust you and that they feel really excited that they know you again and that you're going to consistently be there. It gives you the possibility to get a lot of visual interest in your content. So could you use a fun prop or a lot of motion to make people stop their scroll and be like, wait a minute, who is this? This is catching my eye, and actually consume your content. And make sure you also take time to do things that are unscalable. So unscalable things include things like DMs. This is super important for engagement, especially. DMing people to have those one-on-one conversations is really great because it's the perfect way that you can actually start to get to know your followers again. I recommend doing this in Instagram. You can actually set up like a question or a poll there. And if people answer that and you respond to them, it goes to their DMs. DMs are an amazing way to make sure that you are having those one-on-one conversations to get to know your followers. And you really want to have these questions increase every single day. So start slowly so you don't get overwhelmed again. Perhaps make a goal to do one of these questions and one of these DM sessions a week, and then increase to a couple times a week so that you're really showing your followers you want them to talk back to you. Remember, if we want people to engage with us, we have to invite them to and give them a call to action to do so. You need to really remember that doing these DMs actually helps get your engagement rates up because the algorithm does see it as meaningful conversation. And that's the stuff that they are putting the most value on these days. So play to that strength right now, especially if you're re-engaging your audience, of using DMs. Other strategies you can take is something called the 9x9 hashtag strategy. This is just going out there and searching popular posts within your niche and within your industry. Look at that post and go ahead and choose the top hashtags that are on that post. Click into those hashtags and start engaging with the content within that hashtag. Reply to people, offer people advice and value, like people's comments and photos in those hashtags. This is a great way to start producing community and start to really relate to your community again. And it is all about building community at this point so that you can build that trust back up. You can do things like co-host live streams. This is a huge one, especially re-engagement, because you're getting to share audience eyes and you're getting to offer value to a whole new audience. So if you have someone you can collaborate with within your industry, go ahead and get on some live streams and collaborate with them. Make a list of 5 to 10 people you could reach out to this week and do so you can start laying that groundwork. At this point, if you are trying to re-engage your followers, they might have a lot of questions like, why were you gone so long? Why was your feed empty for so long? So could you answer some questions for them on a live Q&A session? We like to call these Ask Me Anythings here at MeetEdgar. Our founder, Laura Roeder, oftentimes will do these Ask Me Anythings, whether it's in a webinar format over a Zoom call or whether it's just on Instagram Live. And it's a great way to make sure that people's direct questions are answered What a great way to build trust in that way. Could you also look for ways to offer a referral or affiliate program to some of your power users who are still loyal? If you've been gone for a while, this is a great way to get those testimonials back up. If you have great testimonials, it's so simple to share these for social proof right now. Often I think we get a little afraid that we have to have testimonial videos or a lot of photos of the people giving those testimonials. It could be as simple as just screenshotting an email where someone told you how much they appreciated your product or service, putting that on a background and uploading it onto Instagram or onto Twitter as a great way to remind people, hey, other people still trust me. I am still here for you doing great work. So if you are waiting, and if you are waiting a long time in order to get back into your community, now is your chance to re-engage them, because oftentimes people are going to be so excited to see you again. So once you've built up your community engagement, don't forget that it's okay to start selling again. You're on social media for your business in order to have an opportunity to promote your products or services. So when you do this, remind yourself that selling doesn't have to be sleazy. How do you know when you're ready to start selling after you do all of these engagement-oriented posts? Often, I think that comes down to intuition. If you feel like your community trusts you enough again, go ahead and start popping on some of your promotional posts now. So you can get into that sales mindset before you write these. I'd love to give you a few tips here. And that's just remembering that selling is not something that you're just taking money from people. It is an exchange of energy, and it is an equal exchange that you're offering a product or service for that money. So don't feel bad about selling, because it's not like you're just taking people's money. You are giving them a ton of value back. And I think that can make actually writing your sales posts a lot more fun when you're in that mindset, because you can really promote in a way that you're saying, holy cow, how exciting is it that this person's life is about to get so much better with my product or service? And in all of your copy, but especially in your sales copy, be really clear and transparent. Now, you don't want to be confusing or misleading or clever in any way. If you're re-engaging your audience, the more clear you can be, the better. Remember, a confused mind does not buy, especially on social media. So your job is always to give people the information that they need in order to make a decision if they'd like to buy your product or your service. So keep it simple out there, guys. Just have these conversations and create a community. When you focus on conversations, selling, and community, you're going to be able to convert your followers so much better. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I'm really excited to hear how it goes. Go ahead and leave a comment here or email support@meetedgar.com, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow.